Hi, welcome back to Chats with Garage. Last episode on the Galaxy project we did all the ball joints and bushings on the upper control arms, so this week it's time to crack on with the lowers. When we were picking the car up from the shipping yard, they brought the car around on a forklift dolly and sat it down, and it started leaking oil out of the left hand front wheel arch, like out of here. Well, that's a pretty weird place for it to be leaking oil from. Had a bit of a look and found like 3 bottles of different fluids, like oil and brake fluid, all tucked up in the cavity on the inside of the guard on the left hand side. Since then, one of the things that I've found while I've been working on the suspension is that absolutely everything on that left hand side has got the most ridiculous film of gunk. I don't know how well you can see that, but that is like a 10mm, 3/8 of an inch thick layer of grease and dirt over everything. And I had to dig through all of that to find even like the brake lines. They were just hidden under a 1/2 inch of soft, greasy, mucky, gross stuff. So I'm going to give this a water blast before I go putting the new ball joints in. Well, the water blaster didn't really move it, so I had to attack it with a scraper as well. I managed to get enough off that I can find the ball joint in there to now replace it. But what I have done is covered the lawn in little nuggets of greasy rubbish that are just going to be absolute carpet destroyers. So now I've got to go and pick through in the grass and pull out all of the bits of grease that I can get before the kids trample them through the house. Fingers crossed this doesn't end up being an insurance claim. Now, one thing I have noticed, looking at these, I've been planning my next move for how I'm going to get these ball joints off. On the uppers I was able to grind the heads off the rivets and then drill them out and then punch them out as well. But on this one, it's recessed into this little piece here, and on the other side it's even worse. I had been thinking that I could just attack all of this with the grinder, assuming that this was part of the ball joint that gets chucked away, but I think I need to reuse this because the new ball joint set doesn't have a cap to go on the top. So I think this needs to get bolted back on, which means that my only option is to drill these out. And I've already told you how good I am at breaking drill bits. I'm pretty excited at the moment because there's light at the end of the suspension tunnel. I've finished disassembly of stuff. We've been grinding, drilling, bashing with hammers to get the old ball joints off, and the new ones are all installed. Wasn't without drama. I bought these Quick Steer branded ball joints for the lowers. Just what came, I had no idea really what I was getting. The ball joints themselves seem okay, but the hardware that comes with them is absolute rubbish. The first lot of fasteners that I put on didn't really get to wind them up that tight, and they stripped out. The nuts feel weirdly loose on the bolts, so the threads don't have a very good tolerance. If you look down inside the nut, they've got a massive chamfer on each end, so there's only sort of 60% of the depth of the nut has got thread, so they're just shit. Add to that the spring washer totally flared itself out, so that's rubbish. So I've been and replaced all those with proper high tensile stuff from the local hardware store. I had one of the supplied grease nipples had a real crappy thread form on it as well and wouldn't actually screw in, so I got the grease nipple off one of the old ball joints and installed that, no problem. On this arm, one of the previous owners had managed to strip out the studs for the shock absorbers, and so they had fixed that by putting another nut on over the top to catch on to fresh threads, which was also cross-threaded and stuffed. So by the time I got that off, there was absolutely no thread left on it at all. So I had to cut and grind and punch those out, and TIG welded on some new high tensile hardware. So these are all ready to go back together. I've thought really hard about it actually, and made a conscious decision not to bother blasting and painting any of this stuff at the moment. It's not really in my budget currently, and it'll take a lot of time. By the time I muck around, strip it all completely, totally degrease it, blast it, prime it, paint it, put it all back together, it's probably going to add a month, given how much time I get to spend in the shed. I'm typically out here for like 20 minutes at a time, and that's not enough of an opportunity to do a proper job of painting something. So too hard basket for that for now, and we'll stick with the theme of this project, which is just get it on the road. So next thing to work on is rebuilding the drum brakes, and then I can put that front end back together. Alright, I'm going to rip into the reassembly. Start off with the upper control arm, lower control arm, spring and shock. I can't put the upright in yet because I've still got to do the brakes, but this will be a good start. Okay, onto the brakes. I have just gone and picked up the uprights and brought them up onto the bench for a bit of a look. I was going to start on the right hand one first, but I've noticed a couple of things missing. So I went and got the left hand to compare, and there's a couple of issues going on here. This right hand one has got a broken spring, and the end of a cable hanging out here. Comparing with the left hand one, the cable is what drives the auto adjuster, and the spring, after a bit of a Google search, well, it's clearly for pulling the pads back apart, for retracting them, but neither of those parts are in my hardware kit. So I had a bit of a Google search, and supposedly they stopped putting the retracting springs into the hardware kits a number of years ago. Conspiracy theorists say that it's the companies that make the hardware kits that also make the disc brake conversion kits, and by removing that one spring, it doesn't affect the performance of the brakes, but it definitely affects the life of them. So they make money through selling more disc brake kits. Whether that's true, I have no idea, but it means they're quite hard to get. So I'm going to bodgy fix that with a couple of smaller springs and some kind of link bar in between. But the cable for the adjuster is also not in the hardware kit, and I haven't seen any of those for sale online. So that's either going to have to be a junkyard part, or I'm going to get something made. And I suspect I'm going to get something made. Alright, I've got the first brake drum assembly put back together with new hardware. I've got new springs, new slave cylinder, new shoes, new clippy doodads here. The other side, I might have mentioned before, the spring here is broken, so I've got to figure out what I'm going to do for that. But also that guy's broken. And I was thinking I would just put it back together without it while I waited for a new one to arrive and then sort it out. But now that I have assembled one, I do not want to do it any more times than I have to. These springs are so heavy, that was so hard to put together, and I don't want to be doing it anywhere other than in my vise. So definitely going to wait for that part to arrive, I think, which is a shame because I was hoping I might be able to drive the car this weekend, but that's not going to be the case while I wait for this teeny tiny little $4 part to come all the way from the USA. Time to have a bit of a tidy up of my socket set. My 3-year-old quite likes to come and hang out in the garage, which I love, but her favourite thing to do is completely reorganise my socket set. But it's still pretty cool that she's keen on hanging out sometimes, even if it does mean that I have to go through one by one, picking out my sockets, checking the size and putting it back away in the right place every single time. It's worth it. My little cheapy vice grip started misbehaving while it was holding the top of the shock absorber while I was undoing the nut. I don't know if you can see, but the jaws don't join together anymore. It's like a $10 set of about 10 vice grips that have lasted me, I don't know, 10 years probably, which is not bad. $1 per vice grip per year. Probably due for some new ones that aren't Chinese. Not that there's anything wrong with stuff from China, but there's a time and a place, and quality tools are not it. These Barco socket sets are absolutely fantastic. They're tough as, and you can buy replacement parts. They are very good. I've had this one for about 15 years now. I've had to replace one ratchet because my friend broke it. Other than that, it's been a brilliant set. I'll put my spanners away now and that'll do.